Hey guys, it's Chelsa Messenger with Picks and Parlays. We're talking NBA action, the most dramatic league in all of sports. We're talking Heat Sixers. It's National Championship Week in college football, and we've got a special code for 20% off the entire site at picksandparlays.net. The code is CHAMP. Right now, the line looks like Sixers minus 5.5. The total is 220.5. This is probably because the Heat are probably going to be missing a whole lot of players. Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, Bam Adebayo, Myers Leonard, all of these guys out with COVID stuff, out having to quarantine. And in the first game against the Sixers, they actually took them to overtime, even though the Heat only had 8 players. So a gutsy performance from this Heat team. 4-5 overall, 4-5 against the number. The Sixers are 8-4, 6-6 against the spread. Joel Embiid had 45 points in that last game with 16 rebounds and 5 steals. A monster game for him. Also, it went to overtime, so a little bit of stat padding there. We've got Sean Higgs to break this one all down. Sean, in the era of COVID, where we have all these players out, the Heat are getting a whole lot of points, but also they played the Sixers team tough with only 8 players. So what's your take on this one?
You know, you mentioned Embiid and his 45 points, and then I'm looking at the stats before the show. I'm like, Ben Simmons, number 1 pick Ben Simmons, took 2 shots. The team took 102 shots. He took 2. And I know the guy doesn't shoot he shoots a 3-pointer every 6 months. They took 55 3-pointers, 100-something 3-pointers between these two teams. And the number 1 pick in the NBA draft took 2 shots. That's your point guard. All right, enough about Philadelphia. I'm taking the Heat. Granted, they're out of guys, and let's be honest, they got 8. They lose 1 more. The game's going to be postponed tomorrow because they can only play a certain amount of guys. Miami led the game. They had a 13-point lead. Philly had a 12-point lead. The game ends up at 3. It was an 8-point spread. I'm getting 5, 5.5, whatever the case may be here. Could be more. It's definitely not going to be less. I'm taking Miami. Philly, I don't know. Listen, they're a talented team, but, who's shown, you see it. Ben Simmons, 2 points. Embiid, 45 points. You need a little more consistency to win long-term in the NBA. And the runs, you see it. Teams with double-digit leads evaporate. Give me the points here. And let's see COVID time. Let's see what goes on at tip-off. Granted, we get a nice day off between the overtime because you guys logged a lot of minutes over there. Give me Hero, though. The Tyrell Heroes, I like that kind of guy. He's spunky. Got a little zest to him.
I think it's crazy trying to handicap the NBA this season because you'll see that players are out, whether it's COVID or load management, and immediately people will go on the other side. And that's not always the case. I remember with Golden State, I think whoever they were playing had some players out, and I said, oh, there's line flip. It's probably going to be Golden State's probably going to win. No, I wake up and see I lost that bet. So it's not always the case. You can't really overreact to some of these players out and just you've got to judge it on other factors as well.
Yeah, and wait. I remember I had the Nets one game. It opened up. I had them Nets -6. I'm like, oh, this is good. By the time game rolls around, you got people sitting out, and they're 3-point dogs. I mean, we already see games on Friday postponed for COVID with Washington and stuff. I mean, crazy year at NBA. It's a tough one for sure. We just got to pick our spots, try to make some money.
Yeah, and I think that's a good bit of advice, too, is make sure and check and see who is playing about an hour before the game. I would wait to put in your bets for a lot of these NBA games just for that reason, because they're not announcing it until just about game time. And plus, we have some trades. All right, well, that's going to do it for our NBA talk for the time being here on Picks and Parlays. Sean Higgs, always great stuff from you, bud. Thanks for joining us.